Hello and welcome to the video. This is another update on the UK legislation. This is Andrew/Frank that you may know from Let's Drone Out. I'll put a link in the description if you don't listen to that podcast. If you like UAV drone systems and you like to listen to essentially what is a load of guys talking like they would do in the pub, then LDO is going to be for you. Great thing about Andrew is that he is involved in some of the process and quite close to it here in the UK with the legislation, and has very kindly given up a little bit more time tonight to kind of give us an update. Now, we're recording this on the evening of the 2nd of October, so I'm hopefully have it up the weekend in about 3 or 4 days, so this is all relatively current. There isn't a huge amount to talk about, but keeping everyone up to date is a really important part of this process. So massive thank you to Andrew for giving time again tonight. I think the idea is, as we were talking before we started recording, to maybe circle round and try and do this first couple of days in November, just to keep everyone up to speed with what's going on. So Andrew, thank you very much. First of all, do you want to talk about what has changed? Because I think it was only been about 3 weeks since we last spoke.
Yeah, not a huge amount has changed. There's been just a slight delay of at least a couple of weeks for now. So they were hoping to launch this at the very beginning of October, and that's going to be the middle of October now. How much of that is technical and how much of that is political is not for me to say, but yeah, I wouldn't get too panicked about anything. Just stay calm, be patient, especially as the UK model flying associations have recommended holding off from registering as long as you can, because they're still negotiating things and working out how they can best be sort of incorporated without too much disruption to generally how you fly anyway.
Fantastic. So the advice is still the same, is don't try and rush to register. Keep an eye on the communications from people like BMFA, FPV UK, etc. David Phipps, again, the chief executive, who's doing a really good job. Props to David. He sent a note out to all members that was basically said that the DRES scheme will not be rolled out on the 1st of October. Seems unlikely it'll be rolled out before the 14th of October at the earliest. Let's hope that delay continues to happen as more common sense is injected into the process. I'm trying to keep a positive attitude about this whole thing. Cool. Okay, so at the moment, everybody, don't rush to register. Make sure you're in the loop if you're part of BMFA or FPV UK. Keep your eyes open. Things may change in the middle of the month. We may hear more of the same, which is there's been another delay. I hope it's the 2nd, because the longer it goes on, the more like Brexit it might become.
And the thing to be aware of is that the law as it stands is that the requirement for registration will be at the end of November, the 30th of November. That is when the date is that you would have to be registered, as the law currently states. If you're flying anything outdoors that is over 250 grams. So if you're flying indoors, you can carry on flying without registering or worrying about registering until next July. If you're flying under 250 grams, you don't have to worry about registering until next July either.
Fantastic. And that leads me beautifully, it's like we'd planned this, isn't it, Andrew? That leads me beautifully onto a number of questions. There were some really good questions on the last video that we did. Some people weren't sure, kind of read between the lines. Again, what this is our interpretation, and Andrew main interpretation really of the process that's going on. So caveat, read into it what you will. But there are some really good questions. So what I want to do is kind of run through these now. So Gregski, I'm going to try and not destroy everybody's name, so apologies in advance if I make a complete mutt of this. So Gregski said, so over 7 kilogram RC jet plane can fly up to 1,000 feet, but a 1 kilogram multi can't. That doesn't make sense. I thought 400 feet limit is because general aviation flies above 500 feet, and this gives you a 100-foot buffer. Really great question, Gresky. Andrew, what's kind of your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bit. It's not 100% clear the reasoning behind this. I mean, the spirit behind everything flight safety is see and avoid. So I think part of the reasoning here is that a 7 kilo jet is something that someone flying along in their little Cessna will be able to see from quite a distance. whereas a 1 kilo multi-rotor, maybe you're not going to see quite as well. That's partially it. I think from speaking to people, it's more a case of multi-rotors are the things that were in the news, and therefore multi-rotors are the things that they're not going to allow any extra exemptions from the new rules. So what we're talking about here is the exemptions for the members of the UK Model Flying Associations to have an extra bit of height where they can fly. So that is what we're talking about here. There's still, if you're not a member of the UK Model Flying Association, the limit is still 400 feet for everything.
Fab. And to be fair, as somebody that does quite a bit of microlighting, I would always recommend check the apps, make sure what kind of airspace you're in, and having that 100-foot buffer, because microlights generally won't go below that, and it gives you that little bit of gapping, is a good idea. So just use common sense. Next one, there's nobody here wrote, the EU regs have already screwed you over. With the 250 gram rule, if you have a quad that travels faster than 19 feet a second, it's got to be registered, or operator needs to register and do tests with a 4S, 6S micro is not exempt, and you background tightening rules to follow suit. I think that this is a very common misconception that lots of people have, because this was something that was talked about in summertime.
Absolutely. This is the issue with having one set of rules coming out this November and another set of rules coming out next July. Well, not new rules coming out, but coming into force. So from November, end of November, you will have to be a registered pilot and or operator, depending on whatever, to fly over 250 grams, a model over 250 grams. There's no mention of cameras in Articles 94 C, D, E, or F. So if the air navigation order, so you don't have to worry about that. There's no mention of registration in Article 95, which is about small unmanned surveillance aircraft, which is the things with cameras on. So as far as I'm concerned, November, 250 grams, doesn't matter whether or not there's a camera on. July 2020, that's when we're starting to see a difference there, because there is specific rules about if it's got a camera on, then you do have to register, even if it's under 250 grams. From July 2020, you will additionally have to register if you want to fly something under 250 grams that has a camera on that isn't a certified toy. So there are additional toy certifications, to make sure everything is really super safe.
For the moment, you don't have to, if it's sub 250, it doesn't matter what it's got on it, it's the weight that's important. Summer next year, things might change, but again, that's all subject to tide weather traffic. But for now, we don't worry about it. That also answers the question beautifully for Tim Arnold and Jonathan Cox. They said to operate and pilot a sub 250 gram SUA with a camera in uppercase, we'll need registration for operator and pilot. That's not the case for November. That potentially is the case for next summer, and we'll try and keep you up to date with what that all works out. So,
but it is worth noting that the under 250 grams will give you some other dispensation. So you'll have to register, but it will mean that you'll be able to fly in other particular areas that, over 250 grams you might not be able to. So you're more allowed to have more people wandering in and around the area and that sort of thing. So it's not ruling out the benefit of working on an under 250 gram model.
Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You have the bell notification icon turned on. I have a whole playlist about sub 250 gram models. And excitingly, I'm starting to get information, and should start this month, to get in sub 250 gram FPV wings, custom designed to fit in this category. So do make sure you're watching, because if you want to do sub 250 gram flying to avoid registration and all that shenanigans until next summer, caveat, we'll see what happens, then there's options. Okay, now I'm going to destroy your name again. Apologies for this. Didactylos 4 Diddy 4. Hopefully that was better this time. I don't believe that my question was answered. Sub 250 grams. I know I do not require registration. I was asking whether flying those size UAVs requires completion of the test for the pilot. Do you want to talk about the whole thing
Yeah.
about the test and the registration?
At the moment, the test and the registration are practically the same thing. So under 250 grams, there's no tests, no registration. You need to be able to, it's a good idea to know the rules, but there's no online test or anything until July 2020. We'll see what happens.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Next one, only 2 left. Aspie Geek. Quick question that hasn't been answered as I see it. You say that a multi-rotor is restricted to 400 feet, but a fixed wing is restricted to 1,000 feet. What about a multi-engined fixed wing, such as a Lancaster? Which is a great question. It's one that I've had. Many people are now putting flight controllers or stabilizers in them to make them more stable and easier to fly. Does this make them multi-rotors in the eyes of the law so that they are restricted, or are they classified as fixed wing because they are not a quad, hex, octo, y6, etc.? I think that's a really good question, because we do have planes with more than one prop, and we do have planes that have some pretty clever flight controllers and software inside.
For all of this, multi-rotor means an aircraft that has multiple rotors producing lift. So a Chinook, for example, would be considered a multi-rotor. Make of that what you will. Okay. So a Lancaster is definitely not a multi-rotor unless it's prop hanging, and then you might have to limit yourself to 400 feet.
Right. So the answer is to be confirmed, but there's some general rules in there. But I'm pleased about that, because I do have planes myself with 2 rotors, twin-engined wings and things. The idea of being able to go to 1,000 feet rather than 400 in where it's safe to do so is good. Last one, Michael King. Where do I go for registration to fly 500-gram quads? Thanks for the heads up. I'm a newbie. I'm quite happy to take that one. I think, all of the information will be put out everywhere. It'll be talked about on Let's Drone Out. I'll put links on my channel. Everybody in the UK, including people like the BMFA, FPV UK, it will be everywhere when it's out and about. So make sure you have access to those things, that you're following people like this channel, Let's Drone Out, you're listening along. All that information will come out as it's there. I think until it's actually officially released, it's impossible to say where it's going to end up and if it's going to end up.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait until 30th November. Don't worry about it until then.
Yeah, so have a lovely October and fly your brains out while you can. But thank you for going through all the questions and adding a little bit of an explanation. I think thanks to everyone that's asked the questions, because I think these specific questions really help tease out what this new legislation means to us as pilots. So again, if you have any other questions that you're not sure about, pop them in this video and we'll try and pick them up in early November. So happy flying, have a great October, and I'll see you again in another update video with Andrew, hopefully in early November. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support, and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlists around iNav. So thanks again for watching and happy flying.